Hello and welcome back. Today's video is a little bit different. We usually focus on the UK and sometimes Europe. Today it will be Europe as it faces a troubling reality. Over 250,000 children are reported missing yearly, with many cases linked to runaways, parental abductions, criminal exploitation and lone migrant minors. Organisations like Missing Children Europe and Amber Alert Europe have been at the forefront of efforts to address this crisis, coordinating hotlines, mediators and alert systems across the continent. Yet, despite these efforts, gaps in data collection, cross-border coordination and legal protections continue to hinder the progress. One very alarming aspect in Europe is the disappearance of over 51,000 solo child migrants between 2021 and 2023, with Italy and Austria reporting the highest numbers. Today we look at many of these cases, starting with a case of a missing child in Ireland. Kyran Durnin, a 6-year-old schoolboy from Drogheda in County Louth, was last seen in June 2022 and reported missing from his home on the 30th of August 2024. Irish authorities launched a murder investigation in October 2024 after receiving information suggesting Kyran may have died at some point between 2022 and 2024. Despite extensive efforts, including hundreds of investigative actions and thousands of hours of footage analysis, Kyran's whereabouts remain unknown and he is presumed dead. Kyran was just 6 years old at the time of his disappearance. His mother, Dayla, had contacted his primary school in late May 2022 to report he was in hospital with COVID-19 and he never returned to class. When Kyran was reported missing in August 2024, the last confirmed sighting dated back over 2 years, deepening the mystery surrounding his fate. The timeline is as follows. Late May 2022, his mother reported him ill and absent from school. June 1st, 2022, the last confirmed sighting. In June 2022, Kyran's family then informed the school that they were relocating to Northern Ireland and that Kyran would therefore not be returning after the summer holidays. Despite Kyran having moved out of the country, it's believed that social welfare and child benefits continued to be paid to his mother by the Department of Social Protection. In May 2024, the family moved out of their house at Emma Terrace. In early 2024, child welfare officials working for Tuzla became concerned about the family and requested a face-to-face meeting. During their engagement with the wider family, new information came to light that caused concern in relation to Kyran's whereabouts. A meeting took place in mid-July 2024 with the family and a child that the officials understood to be Kyran, with another face-to-face meeting taking place in early August 2024. On the 29th of August 2024, Kyran's maternal grandmother, Rhonda, contacted Child Services with concerns over her daughter, Dayla, and Kyran, as they both had gone missing from the house they'd shared. Rhonda was advised to notify the Gardaí, the Irish police, while the Child Services separately reported the matter to the officials. The next day, Rhonda filed a missing person report at the station, stating that she had last seen her 24-year-old daughter Dayla and her 8-year-old grandson Kyran around 11 p.m. 2 days prior and was concerned about their well-being. In early September 2024, Gardaí launched a public appeal for information regarding the whereabouts of Dayla and Kyran, which included physical descriptions and the items of clothing they were both believed to have been wearing. Inquiries confirmed that Dayla had travelled to England via Northern Ireland. Investigations into Kyran's whereabouts uncovered no documentary evidence to prove he was admitted to hospital in 2022, nor did he ever attend any school in Northern Ireland. Gardaí also established that the boy who attended the social worker meetings with Dayla was not Kyran. On the 17th of October 2024, they upgraded Kyran's disappearance to a murder investigation, having failed to uncover any evidence that he was currently alive and after receiving specific information that he was dead. Investigations also failed to discover any proof or Christmas or birthday presents being bought for Kyran over the previous 2 years. Analysis of online food ordering data from orders made to a number of fast food takeaways by a person of interest in the summer of 2022 showed a pattern of individual meals being bought on a daily basis. However, after a certain date, there was one less meal in the regular order, which implied that Kyran was no longer present after that time. It also revealed that records held with child services were lost in 2021 because of a ransomware attack. The last confirmed sighting, as I previously said, was around late May 2022 when he was a senior infants pupil at St Nicholas National School. The police searched the previous house the family lived in. They excavated the garden and surrounding areas, but they found no evidence. The police thought they had come across some sort of lead when they found a boy with the same name and date of birth as Kyran was booked into emergency accommodation at a bed and breakfast for 4 weeks in the summer of 2024. However, this was later believed to be a deliberate attempt to deceive Irish authorities into believing that he was still alive, as the management of the guest house did not recognise Kyran when presented with his photo by the Gardaí. A number of persons of interest deleted their social media accounts. Gardaí obtained a court order to preserve and download the individual account data and examined the posts on each timeline. Investigation into the social media posts showed that any mention of Kyran in text or posts on social media, like photographs, appeared to suddenly stop in the summer of 2022. In October 2024, Dela was tracked down in East Anglia after Gardaí requested the UK authorities to check on her welfare. However, Kyran was not in her company. Dela reportedly informed UK police that she did not know the current whereabouts of her son Kyran, nor anything about the circumstances of his disappearance. Media reports stated that she claimed to have fled Ireland over fears for her own personal safety, and she had no plans to return, having settled in Ipswich. On the 10th of December 2024, she returned to Ireland and was arrested on suspicion of murder. She was released without charge after 24 hours of interrogation and returned to her current home in the United Kingdom. On the 12th of December 2024, the second person was arrested, 36-year-old Anthony Maguire, on suspicion of murder of Kyran. Forensic teams also searched Maguire's house in Beechwood Drive area with the aid of a dog and excavated its back garden to look for evidence. According to reports in Irish media, Maguire was previously in a relationship with the chief suspect in the case and was suspected of having facilitated a decoy child being brought to meetings with child services in an effort to deceive the authorities into believing he was Kyran. Maguire was released without charge after 24 hours, and on the 17th of December 2024, he was found dead at his home after taking his own life. Many properties have been searched by forensic teams, but no trace of Kyran has ever been found. Despite extensive investigations, critical information gaps persist, fueled by data losses and operational secrecy. Most recently, last month, the most senior policeman has said he wants to remind anyone withholding information in the case of missing schoolboy Kyran that they could be committing a criminal offence. He also appealed again to anyone who can help the Gardaí into the boy's disappearance to please come forward. He also gave a small update of the investigation, saying, "A number of arrests have been made and intrusive searches have been carried out, and our senior investigating officer and his team are working hard in the case, but we are appealing for anyone with information in relation to Kyran to come forward, and a reminder that anyone withholding information may be committing a criminal offence." Now we move on to Belgium. Ken Heyrman, an 8-year-old boy from Wilrijk in Belgium, vanished on the 4th of January 1994 while on his way to play football with his sister. Ken was born on the 26th of July 1985 to parents Tinny and Rudy, making him 8 years old at the time of his disappearance. His older sister Kim, aged 11, was with him that day, but her body was discovered 5 weeks later in the Assadote Canal, deepening the tragedy surrounding their case. Ken and Kim took a tram from their home to watch a football match on the afternoon of the 4th of January. A witness placed them at the Sports Palace streetcar stop. This remains the final confirmed sighting of both children. 5 weeks after vanishing, Kim's body was recovered. 2 weeks later, Ken's jacket was found at the same location, and his football gloves turned up in his mother's letterbox several weeks afterwards, but Ken himself has never been located. Belgian police opened a missing persons inquiry immediately following the children's disappearance and later treated Ken's case as a suspected homicide. Forensic teams combed the area and reviewed witness testimonies, but no conclusive leads emerged. In 1997, age progression imagery was released showing what Ken might have looked like at age 12, yet no credible sightings followed. Investigators have grappled with the scarcity of physical evidence and the delayed discovery of the children's personal items. Theories have ranged from opportunistic abduction at the tram stop to targeted foul play, but no suspects have ever been formally charged. The passage of time has compounded difficulties, eroding memories and diminishing forensic opportunities. His mother's relentless advocacy has kept the case alive, appealing for new information at public vigils and through cold case units. International missing child organisations list Ken alongside other long-term cases to underscore the importance of swift action when children go missing. On the 10th of March 2014, Ken was officially declared dead. Now on to Switzerland. On the 30th of January 2011, 6-year-old twin sisters Alessia Vera Schepp and Livia Clara Schepp vanished without a trace after being collected from their mother's home in St. Sulpice, Switzerland. Their father, Matthias Schepp, who was supposed to return them the following day, also disappeared and was later found dead in Italy. To this day, the girls remain missing, and their case stands as one of Europe's most perplexing parental abductions. Alessia and Livia were born on the 7th of October 2004 to Matthias Schepp and Irina. The couple divorced prior to the twins' birth, and custody was shared. The girls spent time at their mother's home in Switzerland and their father's home in France. Despite living separately, both parents maintained routine contact and regular visitation schedules with the children. On the morning of Friday the 28th of January 2011, Matthias Schepp picked up the twins from their mother's house for a planned weekend stay. When Monday arrived, the girls did not return to their mother's home and Schepp's phone was unreachable. Days later, Irina, their mother, received a letter stating, "The children rest in peace. They have not suffered." No further communication followed and no sightings of the girls were ever confirmed. Swiss authorities launched an extensive search that quickly expanded into neighbouring France and Italy. Roadblocks, border checks and aerial surveillance were deployed, and Europol circulated images of the twins. Despite these measures and multiple public appeals, no credible leads surfaced. Investigators classified the case as a suspected homicide, yet tangible evidence remained elusive throughout the multinational probe. On the 3rd of February 2011, Italian police discovered the father's body on railway tracks in southern Italy. His death was ruled as him taking his own life, ending any possibility of direct testimony on the twins' fate. Authorities found a note in his car confirming his intention not to harm the children, but the absence of further clues deepened the mystery surrounding what happened to Alessia and Livia. Several theories have emerged over the years. Some investigators propose that Schepp intended to end both his life and the girls' lives, yet no bodies were ever recovered. Others suggest he may have entrusted the twins to a person he knew or hidden them before travelling to Italy. A 2023 documentary titled The Mystery of the Missing Twins revisited newly surfaced witness and psychological profiles but yielded no definitive answers. Until new evidence emerges, the search for these twin sisters continue, driven by the enduring plea of a mother and the collective determination of a continent. Now we look at the case of a missing Irish teenager from Spain. On New Year's Day 2008, 15-year-old Amy Fitzpatrick vanished during a short walk home in Malaga, Spain. Her disappearance remains one of the most baffling and heartbreaking cold cases involving a teenager in Europe. Despite extensive searches and media attention, no trace of Amy has ever been found, leaving her family and investigators with more questions than answers. Amy was born on the 7th of February 1992 in Dublin, Ireland. After her parents separated, she moved with her mother, Audrey, stepfather Dave, and younger brother Dean to the Costa del Sol region of Spain. Friends described Amy as chatty, warm, and responsible, attributes that made her babysitting her friend Ashley Rose's younger brother on New Year's Eve a fitting task for the teenager. At around 10 p.m. on the 1st of January 2008, Amy said goodbye to Ashley and left the house for the 10-minute walk back to her family home. She never arrived, and no confirmed sightings have been reported since that night. Spanish authorities launched a large-scale search immediately following Amy's disappearance. Roadblocks were set up across local roads, and Coast Guard units and drones scanned the terrain. Hundreds of volunteers joined family members in daily searches, while Europol circulated her photograph throughout Europe. Despite these efforts, the investigation yielded no conclusive leads or forensic evidence. In August 2008, the family's lawyer's home was broken into. A laptop was stolen that was used in the search for Amy. The lawyer said that the robbers got into his property by forcing a locked garden gate. The stolen documents included confidential police reports about Amy's disappearance. He said, "I believe the robbery was related to Amy's disappearance. It makes no sense that they took documents which financially are worthless and left behind all my expensive valuables like TVs, computers and music equipment." In June 2009, Audrey, Amy's mother, received a telephone call from a man claiming he knew the location of Amy. Audrey described the caller as having an African accent, asking her if she was Amy's mother. In an article published by a newspaper, Euro Weekly, Audrey said he went on to say he knew where she was. She had been kidnapped and was in Madrid, and the police were not to be involved, so I agreed, of course. He then said he'd ring me back with a name and address in 2 hours. 5 hours later, after sitting with my phone in my hand and my heart in my mouth, I got a text to say, and I quote, "Can you pay us €500,000? Yes or no, send your answer now, and we will send you all the info you need." Audrey commented that the police and her private investigators followed up on these numbers, but they were both prepaid and had never been registered. Audrey has taken on private investigators who have been working on Amy's case since 2008. They are the same detectives who investigated the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. In May 2012, it was reported that an Irish gangland killer, Eric Lucky Wilson, murdered her. Her parents believe that this particular piece of information is credible. However, a body is yet to be found. Amy was seen out with an older man on the night she disappeared, who her family now believe was Wilson. A police report from May 2011 claims 3 witnesses have come forward alleging they saw Amy with a mystery blonde woman in the Trafalgar Bar in the early hours after her previous last reported sighting. Tragedy struck the family again. Amy's 23-year-old brother, Dean, had his life taken in Dublin in 2013 in an incident involving Dave Mahoon, his mother's partner. On the 6th of May 2016, Mahoon was found not guilty of murder but guilty of manslaughter. He was sentenced to 7 years in prison. Amy's mother has maintained a public campaign, offering rewards for information and renewing appeals on anniversaries of her disappearance. Cold case investigators have also revisited the files using modern profiling techniques, but have yet to uncover substantial breakthroughs. More than 16 years on, Amy's case remains officially unresolved. Now we move on to France. On the evening of the 17th of March 1983, 6-year-old Ludovic Janvier vanished from the streets of Saint-Martin-de-Hers. His disappearance remains unsolved more than 4 decades later. Ludovic was born on the 22nd of October 1976 to Jean-Bernard and Marilyn Janvier. In early 1983, the family relocated to Saint-Martin-de-Hers in search of work and a fresh start. Ludovic was the 3rd child in a family of 4. Shortly before 7 p.m. on the 17th of March 1983, Ludovic went with his older brother Jerome and younger brother Nicholas to buy cigarettes for their father. The 3 boys were last seen by witnesses in Place de la République. According to eyewitness accounts, a man on a motorcycle wearing a blue helmet and old-fashioned shoes approached them under the pretense of looking for a lost dog. He offered candy and suggested the children split up. Jerome went off with Nicholas, while Ludovic stayed just for moments before disappearing. French authorities launched a massive search operation involving local police, canine units and volunteers. Roadblocks and checkpoints were set up across the region, and images of him were circulated nationwide. Despite these efforts and the later classification of the case as a non-family abduction, no credible leads ever emerged. In March 2023, the file was transferred to France's newly created cold case unit, reigniting hope that modern forensic methods might uncover fresh evidence. Investigators initially considered a serial killer hypothesis, given a spat of child disappearances and murders in the region between 1980 and 1996, but they ultimately ruled out a single perpetrator after solving other cases in the series. 40 years on, Ludovic's fate remains unknown. The next country we move to is Portugal. Mendonça, an 11-year-old Portuguese boy, vanished from Lusada on the 4th of March 1998 while riding his bicycle near his home. His disappearance remains one of Portugal's most enduring missing person cases, and he was declared legally dead in 2019. Born on the 28th of January 1987 in Lusada, was a typical schoolboy who enjoyed cycling around his neighbourhood. He lived with his parents and younger siblings, and his disappearance upended a close-knit community unprepared for such a profound loss. On the afternoon of the 4th of March 1998, asked his mother for permission to go on an outing with a 22-year-old family acquaintance, Afonso Diaz. After she declined, she told him to ride his bicycle behind her office. When his tutor called around 5 p.m. to report he hadn't arrived for his lesson, an uncharacteristic delay, his parents began a frantic search, but never reappeared. Authorities opened a missing person inquiry immediately after he failed to return home. His parents, convinced foul play was involved, pointed to Afonso Diaz as a person of interest. Media outlets and the family criticised the police for slow progress and limited transparency. Unverified leads surfaced over the years, including sightings as far away as Paris, but none produced concrete evidence. Investigators have grappled with the erosion of physical evidence over time and conflicting witness statements. The initial focus on a single suspect and the lack of definitive forensic clues have hampered breakthroughs. Theories range from an opportunistic abduction at his mother's office to more targeted foul play, but no individual has ever been charged, and Rhee's bike and personal items have never been recovered. Every anniversary reignites his family's calls for information, while local and national missing person organisations keep his story alive. And now we move on to Finland. Räisänen was a 16-year-old Finnish high school student and basketball player who vanished from Tampere on the night of the 16th of October 1999. Her case is widely regarded as the most infamous disappearance in Finnish history. She was declared dead on the 5th anniversary of her disappearance in 2004. Raisa was born on the 10th of March 1983, known to friends as outgoing and responsible. She had a good relationship with her family and enjoyed spending evenings out with classmates. On the evening of the 16th of October 1999, she left home after 9 p.m. with a female friend for a girls' night out. They boarded a city bus to the centre and entered the Casablanca restaurant nightclub. They were using false identity papers to gain entry. At 18 minutes past 10, she called her boyfriend, expressing her wish to join him at a party if she could secure a lift. This remains the last confirmed communication from her. She was reported missing and a huge investigation was launched. There was search of bus routes and CCTV analysis, dozens of witness interviews along key transit corridors, forensic examination of the nightclub and surrounding streets, review of her mobile phone call logs and tower data. Despite these extensive measures, no concrete evidence has emerged to explain her fate and no arrests have been made. Her case is now being treated as a murder investigation, but they can't rule out accidental death due to the lack of evidence. Now another case from Ireland. On the afternoon of October 23rd, 1986, 13-year-old Philip Kern left his home in Ballyroan, South Dublin, to return to school after lunch. He never arrived. Despite extensive investigations, public appeals and media coverage, no trace of Philip has ever been found. His disappearance is now treated as a suspected child murder, and the case continues to grip the Irish public nearly 4 decades later. Philip was described as a quiet, studious boy who followed a predictable routine. That day he had returned home for lunch, a common practice, and left shortly after to walk back to his school. His school bag was discovered days later in a nearby laneway, sparking intense speculation and a massive search effort. The bag's location suggested he may have been abducted en route, but no witnesses came forward and forensic evidence was scarce. His family believe he was abducted by someone who knew him personally. Several hundred police and divers took part in a large-scale search of forests, lakes, mountains and rivers. Psychics were called in to assist. Posters were made by milk companies. His classmates were interviewed by Gardaí at the school during their midterm holiday break the following week. 6 days after his disappearance, 2 girls discovered Philip's school bag in an alley near his house. The lane had already been searched, and the bag was not there at the time. The school bag was thought to hold vital clues, but how it came to be in the lane is unknown. It's believed that the bag had only been in the alleyway a short time before it was discovered. It was examined forensically, but no clues were located. Philip's items, including pens, pencils, copybook, maths textbook, school journal and his pencil case, were within. Some of Philip's books were missing, including a geography book and 2 religion books. A forensic examination produced no clues as to Philip's whereabouts. Gardaí sealed the bag and it is now locked in a safe. Over 400 sightings were reported in the aftermath of the boy's disappearance. In one, Philip was seen in Manchester in the UK. Each sighting was seriously investigated, but none led to Philip. Several theories were reported by the media, most of which were discounted by investigators. These have ranged from death by accident to Philip being taken by extremists such as pedophile rings. One theory had a woman tell Gardaí that her partner, an alleged had killed Philip after abducting him. This was later declared a false allegation. Detectives based at the Gardaí station have been reinvestigating the disappearance of Philip for several years. Several searches of land have occurred since the disappearance, often without the media being informed. In October 2006, the family appealed for information on the 20th anniversary of the disappearance. They said they had not given up hope of finding him alive. In 2020, former detective Alan Bailey stated he believes the person behind Philip's disappearance knew the area well. He stated, "It certainly wasn't a random stranger or a random grab off the street. I think with the bag being dumped back in the same area, it would suggest to me that whoever went back with that bag was comfortable in the area." In May 2016, a woman contacted police to tell them that she suspected former disc jockey and convicted pedophile Heyrman Cook killed Philip. She claimed she witnessed Cook strike him with a blunt implement on the Radio Dublin studios. Gardaí questioned Cook and he reportedly confirmed that he knew Philip. He died in June 2016. In August 2016, it was announced that DNA samples taken from Philip's school bag did not match him, but he had not been ruled out as a suspect. In 2007, a reward of €10,000 was offered for information. No suspect has ever been charged. Philip's family has remained vocal and hopeful, issuing repeated appeals for information. His mother's interview in the book When Heaven Waits offered a glimpse into the emotional toll of his disappearance. And that concludes our video today. If you have any information on any of these cases, the details are in the description of this video. As always, thanks so much for watching, and until next time.